Vinpraten denne gangen foregår på Kolonialen Bislett, som kjente seere ser. Vi har på besøk en som kommer virkelig langt vekk fra New Zealand. Welcome, Ben.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Yeah.
It's great.
What do you think about the cold in Norway?
Well, it's interesting because I left New Zealand about 48 hours ago and it was 28 degrees.
Yes.
So coming here at 2 degrees and then with a high of 2 degrees, it's quite a change.
Yes.
Yes.
But it could be worse.
It could be.
Oslo have reached a temperature of minus 30, the new record. So it's cold, lots of snow, but when there's a lot of snow, people are inside and drinking wine.
That's good.
That's what we're going to do.
That's what we like.
The background for this meeting is at Kolonial is more that my interest for New Zealand have become bigger.
Yes.
But the accessibility for wines from New Zealand are less in Europe and in Norway special. And we will have a talk about this. But first of all, we need to pour some wines. And
yes.
The first wine we are pouring is classic. And of course, always from New Zealand is skrukorker. That's popular.
They are, yes. Probably 90%, 95% of New Zealand wines are under skrukorker since 2001, where we did an industry-wide, we basically put off cork. We thought, no, we're going to skrukorker because we had too many issues with cork taint and probably oxidation or early onset oxidation, and skrukorker was the way to go to keep those lovely pristine flavours that we're known for alive and have good longevity.
Yes, but the rumours are saying that you got all the bad corks for a while. The importer it was a lot of rumours at that time.
Yes, and I don't think they were. I think they were founded. I think there was. I think in 1999 when we bottled our Pinot, we had 4 out of 12 wines had cork issues.
Wow.
And so that was just the catalyst to say, right, there must be something better, and skrukorker proved to be that. Yeah.
But the customer now it's 20 years ago that happened, and no returning of ordinary corks in any way.
No, so you don't have that. Once you've sold it, and you don't have that return of damaged wine through cork.
Yeah.
So, and we as a producer can confidently deliver our wine knowing that it's not a cork or a closure issue. That's if there's anything negative with the wine. So we've got a whole lot more confidence, delivering this to the consumer.
The Norwegian, they love in younger wines skrukorker. There have been no issues, so much issues. We have some issues, of course, with oxidation sometimes of handling of bottles, because the monopole or people are taking the bottles together and then they are coming together, the corks, and then it's squeezing, and then after a while the fruit are disappearing sometimes. But it's a less problem than TCA.
Yes.
But back to the wine. The Sauvignon Blanc 2022. And first of all, what is with your wines? Tell me a little when you started, how did it become?
Yeah, okay.
Because you had not been birthed yesterday. You have.
No, I was born.
We are the same age.
Well, I was born 2 days ago, not just yesterday. Yeah, yeah. So look, I'm in my second half of the century, just, and I grew up on a dairy farm in Marlborough, and I used to follow my dad around. Milking cows and shifting the electric fence, and that was about the same time as grapes were just starting to come into and be planted in Marlborough. So incidentally, 2023, last year, was the 50th anniversary of the first grapes planted in Marlborough in 1973, and Dad planted in 1988 on our dairy farm down in Dillon's Point. So we're sort of running quite a coastal vineyard now. So these wines are all organically farmed and certified, and all single vineyard expressions of these varieties. So with Sauvignon Blanc, we all know the broad base of what Sauvignon Blanc is. You know, it's blows your nostril hair off, lovely greens, and really good palate and good acidity. So my Sauvignon's just a bit more of a different slant on that because of its single vineyard expression. But
then you're telling that, okay, even if 73 is the start of Marlborough, the first thing, it's still a new wine area, you know,
Yeah.
in different from other aspects. But after that, also that I feel that when I've tasted wines from New Zealand, I have an impression that it have been 30 years, 35 years with a lot of volume, a lot of what you say, talking about Sauvignon Blanc and been famous and all this. And then the last 15 years, it have becoming more producers who have different styles in between. So some is more European way, that less of the Sauvignon Blanc boost, and some have more fruit and of course different aspects of. Could you tell me a little bit of, is this something you agree that
Yeah.
that it have been a change of styles in the concept of the early for 50 years ago? This is a huge timer now, but
Yeah, well, that could take 20 minutes to talk about,
Yeah, yeah.
because really you're sort of talking about over 50 years, it's been a exponential growth.
yeah,
So really our 50 years is probably 300 years of European grape
Yeah.
growing and discovery and expression and discovering these soils and what the best way to go about it. So we've been sort of fast-tracked over those
Yeah.
50 years. So those first 15 to 20 years were very pioneering. We're still discovering what grapes grew well in different sites. And these days, particularly in Marlborough, where we're based and from, we've now in the last 5 years come down to 3 sort of sub-regions of Marlborough.
yeah,
So you've got going south to north, you've got the Awatere Valley, which is exposed by winds coming up from the Antarctica. So those, in a Sauvignon Blanc sense, they tend to be more snow pea and nettles and tomato leaf characters, more greens and citrus. And then the Wairau, which is slightly protected, you're getting more guava and melon, sort of a little bit more tropical notes coming
Yeah.
through. And then tucked into that valley is the southern valleys, which is more clay-based. And they tend to be a bit richer because of the clays in the soil. And incidentally, that's where, if you are really trying to focus and find good Marlborough Pinot Noir, that's where that Pinot Noir is coming from. It's coming from where the clays are.
So what you're saying in short term is that now in the last 10 years or 5 years,
Yeah.
Marlborough, New Zealand wines have become a new step because the sub-region is meaning like you can find agreement that okay, this have its own style from the coastline and into the valley. It's different wines who's coming,
Yeah.
and you have to be aware of this quality hierarchy because
Yeah.
in the Norwegian market there are some big sellers. Less of the best wines and from New Zealand, but often sold in restaurants. But they are often forgotten in tenders, and that's the meaning that you have one
Well, that's
tender last year.
That's right, and that's
Yeah.
that's the challenge. Smaller family-owned wine growing operations have, because with success comes outsiders wanting to come in and be part of the success. And I think now, after 50 years, we've got a situation where we've got large corporates and large businesses that are really driving that entry point Sauvignon. And then we've got the likes of myself and a number of others that are really trying to drive quality and site
Yeah,
to differentiate that
Yeah,
style
from the
and the quality. And the challenge with Sauvignon Blanc, it's such an awesome grape to grow that often you can be lazy with it and it can still overperform from a quality perspective. So there's a real challenge for us, and it's not like us versus the larger companies. It's just it's just having an awareness
yeah,
and trying to educate the consumer that there's really good better wines or really good wines in a more sophisticated, more palate weight way.
But you started up in 2007.
Dad planted in 1988.
Yeah,
And then I launched the Zephyr brand in
Yeah.
2007.
Yeah.
And then in 2017 converted it to organic wine growing practices.
but you know, Ben, we have talked about 10 minutes now, and we haven't
I know.
any wine. So
I know.
we have to go into the wine finally.
All right.
The first wine, Sauvignon Blanc 2002. What you can tell me about it?
Yeah, look, it's on where we grew up on the farm. We're about 3 kilometres from the high tide mark from the coast, and we're tucked into the Wither Hills there, so we're facing north, and it tends to give a bit more greener characters, but quite subdued. So I'm not into making a wine that blows your nostril hair off, because I think the palate needs to be needs to drive longevity, and needs to make you have 2 or 3 glasses, and it also needs to go with food and conversation. So we're looking at, fennel, coriander, snow pea, blossom, some guava, and then because we're close to the coast, I think we pick up some really lovely saline minerality through the palate.
Vegetable, herbal, kind of structure.
Ripe,
of the wine.
Ripe herbal notes.
But very fruit driven.
Yes.
So, but it's less of this overpowed of the commercial styles of Sauvignon Blanc that you often see or you can taste. So
for me, it's all about balance in the wine, and I think if you overblow the nose, it's a bit like when you go away on holiday and you come back and all your fruit is overripe in the bowl. So I'm not into overripe notes. I'd rather have the blossom or the fruit skin or pith than just the overripe characters. Yes. And that's one of the keys around what you're seeing from perhaps some of those more commercial wines. They are more overtly tropical. Yeah. They're not succinctly and in balance sort of herbal greens.
Yeah. But you have to learn your customers to drink that kind of wine. When you're seeing the last 5-10 years, people are. I've seen and seen a lot of tasting notes, and people go to New Zealand and give reports about New Zealand of premium producers. And they are telling different tasting notes. They are telling about more depth in the wines. They are more older wines. They are more concentrated wines. They have more meanings about the wines.
Yep.
You are still arguing in between you a lot. And that's good because that
it's good, healthy. It's healthy argument, quality, and it basically drives each other to succeed for the region.
Yeah. So, but do you think that Sauvignon Blanc should need another step of? I see that you often mention clones and so on. You're very technical with your description of wines. Many times I feel that when I talk with New Zealand producers, they are very upset about numbers, that the technical thing is. You think that?
No, because I'm not technical at all.
You're not?
No, because I didn't study science. No. I studied drama and did marketing.
So you have a drama wine?
Sort of. So I'm more of that thespian-esque piece. So I don't look at numbers a lot, and I'm more growing up on the farm. I think there's more touch and feel. Yeah. And I think from that aspect, you've got to have patience, and you've got to work with Mother Nature. Yeah. And every year is different. Yeah. So I'm not too technical once we're in the winery, because I think if you do that, then you're really trying to coerce the wine to something that you want. And dare I say it, it's almost like it's batch brewed. Now the wines every year need to be similar, but I really want to sort of show off where the site is. So if you do taste this wine and I describe where the site, we've got a river running along behind us, we've planted 400 native trees, we've got sheep and cattle.
How big is your...
we run about, on the home site, 35 hectares.
Yes.
Yeah. So
that's a medium size.
It's probably a medium size. Yeah.
No, but what do you think about, the Sauvignon Blanc is world famous. Claude Bay and all this,
Yep.
And then Pinot Noir was coming up, still going on. But in the Norwegian wines people or the monopoly, and we have a discussion about Grüner Veltliner. And even if you don't have any in your farm, and you're now starting laughing,
yes.
Could you understand that Grüner Veltliner could be a grape that could have a possibility when as Riesling from Germany, that there's too much Sauvignon Blanc in the market, so you don't show the potential of what you can get from other grapes also, because it have a limit sometimes. It could be too much Sauvignon Blanc. If Sauvignon Blanc is not popular anymore, or something happen, it's nice to have different aspects of wine. Germany have now, I don't know how many grapes, but they are in Norway. They are 98% Riesling, and people are getting bored of it. I've tasted some. I don't know the name of the producer, but I've tasted some Grüner Veltliner on a fair in London for some years ago, and it was fantastic.
Yeah, look, I think out of New Zealand and in Marlborough in particular, because we have lovely sunshine and we have good cooling winds, we have fantastic acidity, and that's why the wines are alive. So any aromatic, like Riesling, Gewürztraminer, Grüne Veltliner, even Chenin Blanc, we're starting to see some Chenin come through as well, Pinot Gris, and Sauvignon Blanc, and even sparkling base wines are exceptional, and it's because of that acidity. And we were tasting last night at the Grand Cru Club, and a couple of the people there said that it's the acidity they really enjoy, because as Norwegians, like with your citrus fruit and stuff, there's always some lovely tangy acidity, so they understand acid. And I think there's a really cool connection there with what we're delivering in our wines. They're not fat or flabby. Even our Chardonnay and Pinot Noirs have really lovely acidity, and that's what keeps things alive. So to your point about Gruner, yeah, most definitely. But you know, Sauvignon Blanc is about 80% of production in New Zealand, and also, again, to also your point, I've set out to make sure that my Sauvignon Blanc is only around 70% of what I do, because I think there's really importance about those other varieties. So not that we're tasting them today, but I make a Riesling and a Gewürztraminer off our farm, and I really push that, even though it's tiny. And it's not.
It could be a change for the future sometime, because
totally.
Knowledge is something you know about.
Yeah.
But let's go for the next wines, and then we will maybe compare it a little bit together.
Yeah.
Why did you start this brand in 2007? What was the background for it? Is money?
Lack of.
Yeah, lack of money. Okay. So, what?
Yeah. Look, my background was growing up in the farming, and then Dad converted to grapes, so then I started doing the grapes, and then I went to university for viticulture and enology, thinking that I could come home and kick Dad off the farm. That didn't happen, and he's still there doing the vineyard work for us. And then I went to work for a couple of Wither Hills, and then I just cut my teeth through, and then working my way up, working for corporates. But at that stage, I was getting a bit too harnessed, shall we say? Yeah. And I needed to just get out and smell the roses, and perhaps not work for the man. And I had an opportunity where Mum and Dad and Susie, my wife, and I, we had this grape resource off our own farm. And so in 2007 we launched Zephyr. Zephyr's the Greek god of wind, and that is Marlborough's best kept secret. So that wind comes up around equinox times, both a warm wind coming across from Australia, but also that cooling wind coming up from Antarctica, and that essentially what makes that climate, or that terroir, or what we call Turangawaiwai. Turangawaiwai, so it's sort of like terroir, but it's in Māori, and that sort of means a place where you stand and where you're comfortable, and it's sort of that's what delivers all these lovely, pristine, beautiful, clean flavours.
But compared to the first one, this is more powerful. It's more very food. First of all, very food friendly. You see the acidity is there, as you mentioned. In Norwegian, we like a kind of a little bit higher acidity. We have food often who is good with this. So to food, this is seafood. Food totally,
and probably salty, and you know, or even bisque. Your salty bisque characters.
That could be good.
Risotto. So what I did, they're both Sauvignon Blanc. So the first one we tried is that more traditional style, stainless steel fermented, whereas the Mark III is hand-picked and goes into old oak, French oak.
You have a sensation of oak, but it's not present in the wine. Yeah.
So it's not, you're not meant to see oak. No. It's just what it was fermented in. So it's sort of like a sort of a mouthfeel or a character. And you get more, it's more accentuated through fennel and coriander and stalkiness. And then I handle it quite oxidatively, a bit like Chardonnay.
Yeah, that's the other part I was saying, that this is more oxide, but it's not over-oxidized, it's not too much. It's still a fresh wine, but you see the slightness of oak, you have the very good, or also long acidity, and then you have a concentration at oak. You have some butter sauce. Fantastic.
Perfect, yeah. So it just goes to oak, and I just leave it. So that butter sauce or salted butter, you know, is from the Malo and also from the site. So we get that quite saline stuff through the river and close to the sea, so you get that really lovely minerality and texture, as well as that acidity that you do get from Sauvignon. Yeah. The other thing by treating it oxidatively in that juice stage is you're trying to remove all the, so this is the only technical bit I'll talk about, you try and remove all the precursors for methoxypyrazines and thiols, which is all those greens and tropicals in normal Sauvignon, and you're trying to get more yellow and white fruited characters in your wine, and that's why it's more, I think, better with food because it's more subdued yet more powerful.
My sensation of the wines that the first one is now compared to the second one, it's of course this is more terrace, entry, easy drinking wine, but the next one is a step up, 2 steps up maybe. The alcohol level is 13%. It's not so high. You don't have a sensation of alcohol. You have lots of fruit. Concentration is good, but also is much more different than a commercial New Zealand wines.
Yes.
And this is probably one of the reasons also why you won the tender at the Monopole last year. Or last year. Yeah.
I certainly hope that was one of the main reasons. Because
we hope so. We don't know.
I know. Oh. And also by farming organically, you tend to get, I find my alcohol percent has gone down by about 0.5%, but the mouthfeel, or what they talk about extract, has gone up. Let's say by 0.5%. So the organic farming and the extract and the mouthfeel somehow is contributing to more palate weight, but not sort of over the top palate weight in the wine. So there's a better sensation, there's better drive, chewiness, and there's better longevity in the mouthfeel.
But after your opinion, if you compare, if you know, people are listening to this and seeing this on the video at Vin and Feel, they are thinking, okay, I haven't tasted wines from New Zealand since I got a Cloudy Bay in the 2010 or something. If you're going to compare your wines to Cloudy Bay today, I mean, I know that's, how would you describe it? And you can be not diplomatic. You can be, Cloudy Bay have mean a lot. And for the listener who don't know about Cloudy Bay, you look up at Google, you will understand. So this is kind of, as Norwegian is for Holmenkollen, a famous place, Cloudy Bay is a famous brand, who have now been commercial. That is fantastic, in a way of ambassador for New Zealand in the beginning. But today, it's a kind of a history maker. You know, it's a different path. But if you're comparing it, is this a different style for you? That you are totally different.
So, being
Ben, now you have
being I'm on the spot here. I think that my wines display more texture and palate weight and individuality, and you can sight up where they're coming from because they're single vineyard. The Cloudy Bay wines are multiple vineyard and they're blended in the winery. You cook, and they're very well made and polished and sharp. I must say, must disclose that my brother-in-law is the viticulturalist for Cloudy Bay. So I've got to be his grapes that he does are great, and very good winemaking.
People are understanding that there are differences between Sauvignon Blancs from.
And I think what Cloudy Bay did do, you know, it's just like we're 50 years on. So they pioneered, you know, those first 30 years, and now they're into that second phase of where do we do and what do we do next under the banner of Louis Vuitton, Moet Hennessy, and then we're coming in also trying to differentiate and drive style and push style for the consumer to understand that it's not just a one blended wine. You know, there's a whole lot of little sub-regions within Marlborough that are equally sensational and interesting. You know, for palate-wise and flavour. So you've got Cloudy Bay, you've got Hunters.
You have many. So so that's a good thing to do. But now you launch it, and then you arrived with a wine who is a little bit, what should I say, up and coming. The next wine who is coming up. So because now we have gone to 2 different Sauvignon Blancs. One is very food friendly, very different Sauvignon Blanc, different from the commercial style, but it's fruit driven, good intensity, and the acidity is what makes the quality in the first two
totally.
whites. Yeah.
Yep.
But then you have the next one, and the next one is kind of. I take my what should I say? This orange cloudy thing. It's how this project started. It was a late night.
Yes,
with
it
your
was.
wife,
It was a late night. So basically, it's a skin contact orange wine. We're trying it now because we're going to treat it like a sorbet in between the white and the red.
Okay. So this is sorbet, the in-between wine.
This is and the only I describe it as a breakfast Negroni.
Breakfast Negroni. Okay.
So that's
with alcohol, of course.
Without the alcohol, you know. So, and I don't mind if you want to drink it in a tumbler with some ice. That's fine. I don't mind. But I thought we'd try it now. It's made from 3 aromatic varieties on the property. So one is Sauvignon Blanc, then Riesling and Gewürztraminer, and they're a third.
Yeah.
And what you see, particularly the Gewürz, it provides you some of that aperitif sort of.
You have the bitterness and the bitterness.
It's sort of like sweet bitterness.
Sweet bitterness.
You know, and so it's quite good as a cleanser or a sorbet. Some of the more youthful chefs and somms are really enjoying food matching with these styles of wine. But don't ask me what that would be, because as I told earlier on, I'm on the other side of 50. So
me too. But we're in the best part of the
exactly.
Other side of 50.
Yeah. So,
but back to the orange style of wine.
Yes.
When did you first thought about it? And when did you make? How big was the decision to do this? Because this is different style aspect, and for a new beginner in wine, the orange wine is a kind of a step up. It's the flavors are different. They are much more food friendly, of course, because of acidity. You have, of course, the different grapes that here the Gewürztraminer is showing off a lot.
Yeah.
But still, it's kind of a young wine. But you can do it to fish, you can do it to meat, you can do it to much more than the white, because then it's more limited to what you can have it to it.
Yes.
So it's a kind of in between to lighter foods. But when did you start thinking about to make it? It was a big decision to do?
No, well, it's probably something you should never do. I made this wine out of anger.
Of anger?
Anger, and you should never do anything when you're angry. It's a bit like emailing, you know. You never email when you're angry either. So the first vintage of this was in 2016, and at that stage in New Zealand there were a lot of orange wines coming into the country, and they were being sold almost like the Emperor's new clothes, you know. So we were just going, oh, these are great, but really a lot of them were quite faulty and horrible. So they were technically faulty, but there was some really good fruit underneath. So I got a bit pissed off with that, with these wines. With the Somms going, no, this is wonderful, and the customer going, oh yes, I'm not sure, but he says it's all right, so it must be all right. So that 2016, I went out and made one barrel, and it was this agent wine field blend, and then the add-on to that story was that we bumped into this guy from Copenhagen, but we didn't know. He was just touring around backpacking with his wife, and we got friendly with him, and he basically stayed the night in his tent, and we sort of started talking about wine, but he never really disclosed what he did. And I said, look, I've got to go up to the winery and hand bottle this orange wine experiment. And he goes, I'll come and help you. And so we bottled it all, and he said, what are you going to do with it now? And I said, I've got no idea. And he goes, oh, well, I'll take the lot. And he owned an orange wine bar in Copenhagen. Yeah. So look, it was quite good.
So Scandinavia was the door opening.
It was really, yeah. And since then, we're exporting it to the US and the UK. A little bit's in here in Norway.
Because this is a niche wine, and
it is
of
very
course
niche.
It's from New Zealand to Norway. It's a lot of danger to transport it. It's not so stable maybe as many others, but still orange wine. I will say that this one here is different from the two firsts. It's made by anger, but also then by passion.
Not anymore.
No. Yeah. But now you have made some cash. That's okay. But it's made by kind of no faults. It's a is a correct way, but it's an orange wine, but it's more stabilized. And I think, I'm sure, but what do you think about aging of this bottle?
Yeah, I was going to mention that because with all that, with all the phenolics in there, it actually ages really well.
Yeah.
You know, it's a bit like how honey ages, you know, or sweet wines age, and wines with a lot of tannin, you know, like some old style reds with really tannic in their youth, they age well. And so I'm finding that these wines are aging, and they're softening, and then they're developing more of that sort of mandarin marmalade rind sort of characters coming through.
Because people are very upset by tasting the latest vintage of things.
Yes, I know.
As you probably have done, you have been to and tasted Sancerre, and you can see that if you wait a good Sancerre, non-commercial Sancerre, is better after 2-3 years.
Yeah.
The second wine we have here, I think 5 years, 4 or 5 years, and up to 7, then you have the peak point for this.
Yeah.
And the first one, 3 years. No, 2 years after it had been bottled, then you have the peak. That is not a traditional way to think about New Zealand wine, but people ask for why you have to have the later vintage. What is your thoughts about the peak point of taste? You think that your wines could be?
I think if you like, obviously New Zealand's about fruit. So if you want those primary fruits, you're dead on. You're correct. But the Mark III, for example, you know, the first vintage of that was 2013, and that's beautiful now. But it's got all those. It's relaxed. It's aged. And it's got all those more textural characters coming through because it's not relying on those more primary notes of say the Zephyr Sauvignon Blanc. Yeah. And I think with palate and with that salinity, there is some good aging or ageability with the wines. But you are right.
Then we also going back to the screw cap. What is your thoughts about screw cap and aging? Because if you are storing this for 10 years, the screw cap will lose.
Brilliant.
Yeah, it's brilliant.
Yeah. And I think that's added to that aging potential of particularly Sauvignon Blanc to go longer. Because I remember under cork, we were always 18 months, and then we were trying to ship to the UK because we could see the Sauvignon starting to age and slowly oxidise under cork. Under screw cap, it's maintained the brightness.
Okay, good.
Yeah, and the feel.
Now we're going to have a little bit taste of the red, and you said that you keep one part to the production of Sauvignon Blanc, and then you also keep some parts to the other grapes. And Pinot Noir from New Zealand of my impression of have been that there have been a wine of Pinot Noir made by Pinot Noir who have not made to the European consumer often.
Yeah.
And when I mean European consumer, I mean England, I mean Belgium, the States. So there have been a much different Pinot Noir delivered. But then you have come up with some producers who have made a different, more concentrated, different yeast and more aged Pinot Noir. And how would you describe your Pinot Noir compared to that long talk?
No, that's fine. Well, my style is I would like people to drink Pinot Noir Monday through to Sunday, and so
you have a little hour between there. You can
have an hour relaxing. But so it's not a wine that's big and rich. It's more. It's a bit like my whites. Acidity is the key, and that gives it life and vitality and longevity. And you can have it with pizza. You can have it with pasta, and then you can be more serious with it if you like, with those more game derived foods, or slightly chilled in the summer. So Marlborough Pinot tends to have really good acidity, but tends to be more reds and cherries. So if you think about cherries, it's either spice, brooding, dark, red, Sous-Bois.
It's a light-bodied Pinot Noir. It's not I don't like to compare it to other countries or other wine areas, but it's a Pinot Noir that you recognize the fruit. It's fruit-driven. It's you taste the grape. It's you can see that this is you can to lighter meats. It's good. We serve it a little bit chilled, around 11, 12 degrees, something around. That's perfect. We have it in a wider glass. That's good. But what is your thoughts about Pinot Noir in the future? Because I see that Pinot Noir have become a kind of in California, in Burgundy, in other countries. Pinot Noir have been coming up from Germany. It's coming up for sales. Do New Zealand producers care enough about Pinot Noir? Because the potential are much better. I've tasted some wines also there who have the triple of this style, but is not exported.
Right.
Yeah, it's not coming. You know, I think that many wines from New Zealand are not coming to Europe.
No.
Mainly of many reasons, but New Zealand have to be discovered. First of all, you have to travel.
Yeah.
First of all, you have to meet the people, and also the eager to export, for instance, to Norway, have, as in your case, because of a tender, because it's a high expensive country. It's difficult to go to the monopoly. It's an expensive country to marketing wines.
Yeah.
But when you see all that compared to Pinot Noir, who is in New Zealand, do you think that Pinot Noir could have a second wave of popularity as Sauvignon Blanc? Because news traveled faster than in the 73 when Claudie Bay was coming. And it was 4 articles, and then it was worldwide popular. Yeah.
Yeah. Look, I think that there's two things there. Is that the wine drinker often they like pegging stuff, so they'll go Australia Shiraz. They'll go New Zealand Sauvignon Blanc. So then if you start throwing other varieties at them, they go, no, hang on. No, that's Sauvignon Blanc there.
Yeah.
And so that's the challenge. And I take my hats off to all the good mates and winemakers in Central Otago, because they didn't have Sauvignon. They had Pinot Noir, Riesling and Co, and they had to band together and drive that story of Central Otago and Pinot, and they've done that extraordinarily well. From Marlborough, we had this other variety called Sauvignon Blanc, so everything else sort of got put on the back burner, and probably we planted in the wrong areas, and only now we're just starting to see some really smart Pinot, which sits next to those central wines and those wines out of North Canterbury and wines out of Wairarapa and Martinborough as different examples of what Pinot Noir can be, just like in Burgundy, you know, through those different appellations in regions.
Yeah.
I think if you take the US, for example, that the style of Pinot Noir there has probably been bastardised a little bit because of the consumer there likes things a little bit more sweeter, and there's certainly some non-Pinot Noir in the Pinot Noir that gives it that sort of big, denser, richer Syrah-like flavours. But I certainly think from a European palate, Marlborough Pinot and New Zealand Pinot is right on the money to fill that gap before you hit Burgundy from a price point of view.
This is what I call a good entry-level plus wine who gives you Sunday to Monday wines. You can easily pour it, and you can have it in the fridge or have it the next day, the third day, the fifth day. It doesn't matter. You can use it throughout the week, and it's easy drinking to lighter meats and for pizza and so on.
Totally.
But the tannins in the wines are also very nice. In kind of they are smooth, you know. So it's fruit driven. But what I will go back to the Pinot Noir again, and just trying to understand more of, is that, do you think that if we see 50 years ahead in New Zealand, we are not present then?
No.
We don't know, but
hope not.
We hope not, yeah. But do you think that New Zealand are changing to be a more devised country in kind of it's Sauvignon Blanc, it's Pinot Noir, it's areas. The world is getting smaller, so access to information and people are getting smaller.
I believe so. Yeah.
So when we are here, we can be friends at Facebook, Instagram, or TikTok, or whatever. Not TikTok maybe, but Insta in the least. but in kind of getting smaller, so your information flow is getting faster out. And even if you are meeting some who love the orange wine, he can have 10,000 people he reaches. So you can have your business out of less. because when you started in 2007, early with this brand, this kind of you get more answers faster of is this going correct or not,
Yeah.
and you can reach the customer fast, and that's one of the reasons you come to Norway. That okay, you won a tender last year, going fast. The tender, we see the answers always after 3 years of.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So then you can see it if you've won enough or we've been enough or you like to sell to Norway. That's
Yep.
one of the reasons. But one of the reasons is that all of your wines, even if we can discuss the orangevin, are food friendly. They are good priced through value to the Norwegian market. They are a little bit plus of the commercial side if you are tasting the other Sauvignon Blanc who is in a basic assortment and so on. They are different path totally. I can see that to quality, I think that your wines are better tasted a year after they have arrived in Norway.
I agree. Yeah, I agree with you.
1 year after.
Yep.
Serve them a little bit chilled. Maybe the Sauvignon Blanc, you can discuss if it's going to be too cold or not too cold. Always have butter into your sauces with whites. And the Pinot Noir, you can easily have some fat or some kind of into it and some saltiness. Then you have a good food-friendly wine. But that's my first impression of the wines. And I haven't tasted them, just a few of them before, but not together with you now.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, my whole view on wines is that it's not about the ego. So the wines should be tertiary to what's going on. So it should be conversation, people, food, and then all the wine does is bind it all up together, and you've had a fantastic evening or a fantastic day. Yeah. If they're out up front and in your face, they're always going to be challenging. So they've got to be tertiary, and they've got to your point about the Pinot Noir with the acidity, and that they're going to, with that acidity, it's going to support those more fatty or richer foods, and it's really going to cover your palate and give you a really fantastic sensation. So they're not about an ego, these wines. They're more about they just sort of sit back and make sure that they do their thing. And I think that's the acidity that does that, and those nice pristine flavours which aren't over the top, but they just sit there and they just go about working the room.
We are starting to go to the end of our little talk about your wines and New Zealand, and I often talk with winemakers, taste a lot of wines, and often I ask them, you are making wines, but sometimes you are in a group of people from a country. If you have been the manager of New Zealand wines totally, and then you say, okay, what is the biggest thing you have done first and second to improve New Zealand wines? If you have decided you have unlimited of money, you have power as anyone, as a king or whatever, and you can decide what is the first and second thing you would have done to the New Zealand wine industry to improve something.
Ooh, all right then. How long have you got?
No, we can start with 1 hour, and then we can have 4 editions of this.
Look, I think, with 50 years of the New Zealand's modern wine industry going since '73, it's what, and I don't like this word, but there was a huge generic wine program that went on to try and educate the rest of the world on New Zealand, and then within that you had these regions, Auckland, Gisborne, Hawke's Bay, Wairarapa, Marlborough, North Canterbury, Central Otago, and then Waitaki, and they're our regions. So we had a huge drive in regards to generically introducing the world to all those regions. Of course, Sauvignon Blanc came into that and really drove that. But I think now there needs to be a total fundamental step change in how we deliver the next phase of that educational piece to the wine drinker that wants to know a bit more than just buying that entry-level Sauvignon Blanc off the supermarket shelf. And in saying that, we've got to make sure that they become adorers and they look for the next New Zealand wine. They don't transition to Chile or South Africa or even out of the wine market into lighter alcohol or stelzers or something like that. So I think that's our biggest challenge. And I think one way of doing that is to give back to the regions the power to self-promote regions and create connectivity and community within those regions to then go and deliver, and then drive out to the marketplace.
Yeah. So you mean that smaller areas can go out and describe, for instance, if you take it to Burgundy, one appellation can go out and having their own thing out into the premium markets.
Yes.
That's the first thing you've done.
And then the Marlborough. Marlborough's really has two wine operations. There's the large corporates, and they're probably 80% of Marlborough, and they drive, that FMCG space. And then you've got all these other smaller companies, and they're trying to drive the brand Marlborough and their own brands and their varietals. And we need to empower them because they are the lifeblood of the regions within New Zealand, because they've got a stake in the game, not just financial. This here, the ticker. They've got the ticker in the game.
But what is the second thing you have done? Raise your own salary? Or
But
do you have other thoughts?
Look, I think there needs to be a whole lot more awareness around 95% of New Zealand's vineyards and wineries are certified sustainable under our own platform, which is absolutely marvellous. But now the step change is to go again and really look at championing organics and then and driving the education of what organic farming is, not just grapes, to go the next step. And then around that, being green, whatever that means, because it's a confusing space now as well, and being true to yourself in what you're doing at home to be able to convey that to the customer.
Good thoughts. Ben, it have been a pleasure to have you here.
Awesome, thank you.
I think, first of all, the impression of your wines are, as I said, they are very food friendly, and they are very food friendly. And I say, you're probably coming back to Norway because you like the cold, you like being away, you like doing the Norwegian seafood.
Yes.
And so I will welcome you back.
Thank you very much.
Then we have another discussion about orange wines, who's going to be more deeper, and how the anger is going on.
No more anger.
So,
thank
you for the visit, Ben, and I hope you have some more days in Norway because you're heading back to the heat. We are stuck in the cold here in Oslo, but it will be summer sometime in May, some days.
Some days, yeah. No, it's wonderful being here. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Thank you.